Good afternoon and welcome to our webinar this afternoon. Thank you for joining us for a discussion on how reducing errors in your production documentation in life science manufacturing can help you to improve the efficiency of your production operation, enhance the quality of the product, and ultimately get more of those life-changing products out of the door, more people and in the hands of more patients more quickly. As means is a very quick introduction. My name is Andrew Scholey. I work specifically with the MX part of the MasterControl platform here at MasterControl. I've been here about 6 years now, and I'm joined by my friend George Hall. Today mainly is the George show, as he will be taking us through a live demonstration of the software after a short introduction for myself. Just before we get started, I would like to say to everybody attending, please leave any questions that come to mind as we run through this in the Q&A function, and we'll do our best to address those if we have some time at the end of the session. So, very quickly, for those of you that may not be aware of who MasterControl are, we are a SaaS provider specifically for the life science industry. And what we're looking at here is kind of a very high-level overview of what the MasterControl platform comprises of in its entirety, all on a single unified data architecture. So we're probably best known for QX. That's our quality management system. So your document control, your training and exams, and all of your quality events like your non-conformances, deviations, CAPAs, etc. We've been in that space for over 30 years now, again, exclusively serving the life science industry. We do have a handful of customers in other heavily regulated industries, but all of our solutions are designed with life sciences in mind. Over on the right-hand side, you can see AX. That's kind of the newest addition to the platform. It's a fully featured CMMS for all of your asset management requirements. But really, we're going to be focusing today on MX, the manufacturing module. That's your electronic batch records or your electronic BHRs. If you would like to dive a little bit deeper into any element of the platform that you can see on the screen here, just let us know in the chat and we'll make sure we reach out to you. But yeah, today we're really going to be focusing on the production record functionality within manufacturing. I want to show you why you want to digitalize and how easy it is to make that transition. This might be a familiar sight to some of you attending the call today. And, you know, I'm still surprised, even now, when we're talking to life science companies every day that are building, you know, life-changing or life-saving products or therapies using these antiquated, slow, manual processes that by their very nature are prone to error. You know, some of the most common issues we see are data integrity issues and data errors generally, transcription mistakes being made when manually recording data like this. The things as simple as missing entries, illegible handwriting, inconsistent recording of data is, you know, all a resource drain for your production operation. And this leads to time and efficiency problems, you know, extending that review and release cycle to days or often weeks when you're having to work through all of those data inconsistencies. And it's incredibly labor intensive when you have, you know, a manual verification of every data point that's being entered. You might have complex calculations as part of your production documentation that need to be checked and re-verified. It all takes an awful lot of time. One of the big issues that companies come to us with often as well is having such limited visibility into their data and unlimited opportunity to analyze that data. So not being able to easily trend data across multiple batches, for example, finding it very difficult to identify recurring issues or patterns in your process, and having no real-time access to production information. So not even having a full understanding of where batches are at currently in their production. Yeah, a lot of this leads into significant compliance issues and often audit challenges. Of course, with manually completed paperwork like this, often reams and reams of it, you know, your audit trails are very poor, particularly when it comes to where things have been changed or corrected. You'll have real difficulty in demonstrating data integrity to your regulators. And of course, there's always that risk of pieces of paper simply going missing or being damaged. Again, you know, presenting you with a significant compliance risk. Production is often delayed, bottlenecked by this type of process. We often see product releases being delayed because of days to review documentation. Production has been put on hold while waiting for paper approvals, for certain individuals' wet ink signature that might not happen to be in the building, for example. And then some of the more, I guess, tactical issues that we see are typically around accessibility of records and storage. You're likely, having to manage and pay for physical storage for long-term retention, 10 years or more is often the case. If you need to retrieve historical records for any reason, be they related to an audit or otherwise, it becomes very, very difficult when you're having to, dig through filing cabinets to find those. And sharing that, critical information cross-departmentally within your organization becomes a real challenge. All of this added together actually results in much higher operational costs than in using the kind of solution that we're going to show you today. So I know you may be thinking, well, we're not paying for software and we are compliantly producing a product. But what you really need to start to think about is, what is our increased labor for that documentation review process, for even just pulling the documentation together, for modifying it should a change been made to your product. And for all of the additional quality events that are raised and investigations that need to be followed through with due to those documentation errors. How can we eliminate those?
Andrew, just quickly, there's a question came through, and somebody wanted to know how you got a hold of a copy of their handwriting. And I must say, I feel their pain because my handwriting is as bad as that. My school teachers never could read what I wrote. Luckily, I still got a job, obviously. But yeah, I feel your pain. My handwriting is as bad as that.
Thank you for that, George. Yeah, we'll get back to you. So, what we're really working towards is a goal like this, eliminating paper-based processes entirely from the shop floor, and all of the errors, the data integrity issues, the wasted review cycles, the slow release processes, and all the regulatory risk that comes with it. Well, how do we replace that with something that's intuitive, that's completely digital, that houses all of your production data in one place, and most importantly, is error-proof? And that's what we're going to show you today. Ultimately, again, I've mentioned this before, but this is how we help you get more of your product out of the door more quickly, with greater quality, with enhanced compliance, but also with fewer resources and a reduced regulatory risk. And we do that through MX. MX is the module within the MasterControl platform that George is going to show you today. And that's built around a few key tenets, really, of flexibility, of efficiency, and of compliance. So we've helped hundreds of customers now transition from a completely manual set of processes with, something smarter, that's more flexible, more efficient, and more compliant. So when we're talking about flexibility, we're really talking about giving you an electronic batch record or an electronic device history file that is owned by you and your business. You don't need coders, you don't need developers, you don't need IT experts to be involved with this. This is an entirely no-code set of solutions that allow you to rapidly build and modify your own templates for master batch records or device history files. It's perfect for any life science producer that isn't maybe producing one single product where the process hasn't changed for decades and it's running 24/7 and you need heavy automation. So that's what we're talking about when we term flexibility. With efficiency, this is a lot different from the traditional MES solutions that you may have come across in the past. It's rapidly deployed, it's incredibly intuitive, with a very clean and easy to pick up UI, and it's very, very quickly scaled as well across, either multiple production lines at the same site, maybe multiple production locations around the world, because it's pure software as a service. It's all accessible via, single name user licenses, incredibly easy to scale up. And efficiency when it comes to operators as well, generally we're seeing over 50% of manual data entries in a batch record being eliminated by moving to a digital solution like MX. And there's a few reasons for that we can touch upon. Duplicate data entries no longer required. We can start to bring data in from other sources via integration with these as well. So again, not only reducing the number of touch points your operator has on that record, but eliminating the risk of a mistranscription happening as well. And things, more complex actions like calculation. We could automate that entirely within the production record. Again, take that away from the operators and out of their circle of responsibility. And finally, compliance, of course, for everyone on this call, I'm sure it's critical. It's extremely critical for all of our customers as well. And as such, every MasterControl module that you've seen within our platform is built with EU GMP, 21 CFR Part 11, and EU Annex 11 compliance at its core. We also have industry leading and what we strongly believe are the very most efficient tool set for CSV, for computer validation, and also an automated tool for end-to-end process validation. So all of those custom configured master batch record or DHL templates that you created, with a single click, you'll be validating that process end-to-end in minutes using our software. So we've been around, as I said earlier, over 30 years now. This is just a cross-section of some of the customers that we have that are currently using MX live in production today. The numbers over on the left are more general numbers of who's using the MasterControl platform, whether it's the QMS standalone or whether it's MX standalone. That number of life science organizations is actually closer to 1,200 now. As I mentioned earlier, we do have a handful in other heavily regulated industries, and we do support some of the regulators themselves as well. So, for example, the US FDA use our software as their own internal QMS solution. But I really wanted to move on to this. So this is incredibly interesting. All of these data points you can see on the screen right now, this is real world ROI as reported to us by customers using MX live in production. So you can see one of our customers has managed to eliminate data entry errors by over 90% after implementing MX into their production operation. Another customer, either a pharma packaging customer, are seeing 30% fewer resources required, both in production and in the QA review part of the cycle. The 50% fewer deviations is obviously a big one. That has come from one of our larger customers. They're a 503B pharmaceutical compounding organization, and they've reduced the number of deviations they've seen in their production by half after implementing MX. That 81% of automation of manual tasks, we've kind of discussed that already. Things like automating calculations, bringing data in via integration. One of my favorites there has to be the faster review and release time, as reported to us by one of our large pharmaceutical CDMOs. So they started using MX at one site here in the UK. And after seeing results like this, almost 90% reduction in the review and release time of their completed production records, they're now expanding usage of MX to a further 9 sites around Europe. And this final one, we're going to dive into in a little bit more detail in my final slide. One of our other customers, they're a medium-sized business that makes single-use chromatography columns. They've actually seen a 31% increase in their overall output from their manufacturing organization. And they were able to give us some really good data on exactly how that was comprised or what goes into that 31% year-on-year increase. You can see that the time they're spending in execution of this documentation has been reduced by half. Things like QA review times as well, reduced by up to 75%. Something that used to take them 4 hours, clicking through page by page, line by line, finding errors, having to find the individual that might be responsible and ask them questions, has been reduced by 3/4 simply by using a review by exception model that George is going to show you in just a moment. They've been able to dramatically reduce the number of master templates they are responsible for maintaining as well. So again, being able to reallocate your resources to more value-added activities rather than simple maintenance of documents. They've been able to reduce the number of master templates by 82%. And those bottom 3 lines are ones that you would probably expect from any kind of electronic batch record. You're going to eliminate paper entirely. Things like signatures, initials, dates, timestamps are all automatically applied by the system, as you'll soon see. And again, any time spent or errors realized in complex calculations in your process, we eliminate those through automation of that as well. And as you can see from the graph over on the right there, that's how they've calculated that 31% year-on-year output increase from the production operation for their devices. But I feel like I've talked a little bit long enough now. I know that you guys are here to see the software today. So again, I'd encourage you just leave any questions that you might have in the Q&A section. But for now, I will hand over to George, who's going to take you through a very brief look at the software. George.
Thank you. Thank you, Andrew. If you could just let me share and just confirm you can see, that would be appreciated.
Yep.
Perfect. As Andrew has said, if there are any questions, please ask. Somebody did ask while you were talking, can they get further information on the ROI information? And of course, anybody that's here today, we will send them. Anybody that accesses the recording, please just get in touch and we can ensure we send some of the relevant information over to you, even if it's just a wee bit on the ROI or you want to see the product in a bit more in-depth, case studies, that kind of thing. Andrew and I are more than happy to help. So today's focus, I guess, is error proofing. And you would imagine that becomes quite simple when you digitize. Traditionally with your paper, we saw the example of the handwriting earlier. It can be very difficult to read. There may be multiple corrections needed, etc. So what I'm going to show you today should hopefully just show you how we can introduce this kind of error proofing and these preventative measures built in to your electronic batch record. Now, I'm currently logged into our manufacturing excellence solution. This is the queue I've got to do. It is a demo site, obviously. That's why there's 59 things on here. But this does give me good visibility. For instance, I can see this production record, this EBR is open. When it was opened, it's 3% complete. And then we've got that visibility down the page. Anything that was closed and accepted, anything that's open, etc. And actually, one of the first preventions that I think we've got in the system is actually if you were to utilize our document management solution. An example being here, this is a production record. I'm acting as an operator. I go and try do something, I can't. And that's because it's checking my training record. So if you wanted to, you could utilize our document management solution also. And any policies and procedures, which you can see in the background, that might be linked to this production record. If you've not done your training, the system's going to say, nah, can't continue unless a supervisor came in and overrode that. And that's obviously all captured within the extensive audit trail that we provide. But that's the kind of first step we can do. If you're referencing any policies, procedures, work instructions, etc., if you've not been trained, you're not going to get anywhere. So we're first kind of stopping and ensuring people are compliant. Now, if we jump into a production record that needs completing, there's a wee bit of info here, percentage complete, product ID, etc. Our audit log, which will populate, and the accountability page, which in my mind is your traditional kind of front page where we're going to gather signatures and things like that. People might need to write their name to say they've been involved, but that's all automated. So we're taking the worry away from that. Any policies, procedures we're linked to, any deviations we've raised, etc. And over here, again, it's simple, but it's actually preventing you from doing things out of order. We have dependencies in place. So I can't actually move on to the process until I've done the preparation. So it's a simple thing I appreciate, but we're putting the logic in. Logically, we would prepare before we create, as an example. Now, as an operator, I simply come in here and I'm presented with fields to complete. There's a link to a document. I've obviously done my training, which is why I can continue. I am a good employee. I typically do my training on time and don't often receive reminder emails, sometimes. I've got a task to complete. I click the button and it's done. And the benefit here is that the name and date is captured immediately. I don't need to worry about writing it down or scribbling it down. MasterControl has captured that for me straight away. We've got another field here. It's asking for the volume of ice that we're using. Now you'll notice there's a limit underneath it between 50 and 60, and we have a grams unit of measure over here. But let's be naughty. Let's type 45 instead of between the specified limit. And actually, MasterControl is now telling us we're outside the specified limit. This is what I would call a soft warning. I can still continue with the process, even though we are out of specification. But in the background, MasterControl could have emailed the supervisor or the production manager or the floor manager. It could have emailed a group of people instead. So traditionally, you might find this out at the end of a shift or a handover. MasterControl will notify you immediately that a value is out of specification, so you can come in, get deviations going, hopefully 50% less like our customer. But if you needed to, we could go and raise a deviation from here. But now let's just imagine I actually made a mistake, which happens. We're all human. I could correct the entry directly from here. I actually meant to enter 55, which is within the specification. And then I'm presenting a list of reasons. Now you get to populate this. These are just ones I've entered. I've entered the wrong information. Perfect. That can now be used for analytical purposes. And I could leave a note like, Andrew distracted me. And that's adding context as to what went wrong. And as soon as I apply, we're showing we're compliant. There's a nice green tick. But actually traveling with the production record or the EBR is this note of the correction. So everything's going to be there for you. This one, though, is looking for a limit of 10. When I enter 9, it's just saying, no, you're not continuing. That's not acceptable. Fix this. So this is a hard warning. We cannot continue until this is resolved. So it's looking for me to enter 10. Perfect. Let's get a beaker. We've also got the ability to scan barcodes, just using a kind of traditional barcode scanner. And when we do scan that, it'll enter a number. And if it's matching anything within your ERP or your SAP system, even like an inventory management system, imagine I've just picked up a material from a shelf or a pick bin. I've scanned it. The database is now checking. It's pulled through automatically the name of the material or reagent or whatever that I've picked up. So eliminating human error by not even allowing me to type, just scanning a barcode and pulling the details through. Another error kind of reduction here. We do have basic maintenance and calibration activities. So what this is actually telling me as an operator, I can't select equipment 002. And that's because it's either failed calibration or it's outside. So it's telling me this one's available and it's automatically populating the next calibration date. Did we gather everything? Yeah, we did. And just to act as a witness to ensure that we did get everything, MasterControl's now asking for an extra signature. Somebody potentially over my shoulder can provide their username and e-sig just to provide a witness that we did gather everything. In addition, we also have the ability to link to our logbook solution. So you may need to capture temperatures frequently. I can click on the logbook link here. It's going to take me directly to my logbooks. And in here, I can very, very quickly, we read from dial 1, notice the number specification. It's 12. And if I needed to, I could add an attachment there and I'm done. So I've updated my temperature logbook. It's now complete. And as a further kind of reduction of errors, somebody is now required to come in and verify everything that we've done in this section. So again, username, electronic signature. Let's verify. Yoda obviously has nothing left to do after all the Star Wars movies are finished. Same as Ben. He had a smash hit series and now he's witnessing EBR. So something's fallen from grace. But now this section is now available. And very, very briefly, if we go up here, we're now 35% done. And my activity log is fully populated, including the reasons behind the correction. So quality could monitor this as we progress. Now, very quickly, over here, we've got these 3 sections. And the beauty of this means they can get done all at once. So Andrew could be doing the labeling. I could be doing the extra stuff. You could be doing the table stuff. Let's jump in. One of the questions I just received, I'm answering now, is can you have images for instructions? Yes, you can. Obviously, images and visuals help. I prefer them. This is obviously an example of putting a label onto a vial, but you can also have moving images in here. Don't ask how Andrew and I know that. We got bored at a conference one day and we realized it, but you can put animated images in here. That maybe this is how you pick something up, where you place it, etc. Did we apply the right labels? Yeah, we did. Here's another specification field. I'm going to enter -19 just because. And remember, somebody could be emailed that the temperature has deviated. We can attach photos and samples. So very quickly, if I turn my video off, imagine you're using a tablet. We could capture an image. I'm sure it would look better than that. And now it's captured as evidence against this. Fantastic. But you could also use the gallery on your tablet or the file explorer, etc. Let's complete this section then. Yoda's needed again. I think he'd do this with the force instead of typing manually, but we'll get there one day. And then we can move on to the originally named extra stuff. And this is just other things we can do to help reduce the errors. Instead of looking at a clock and writing things down, I press a button and it captures the timestamp down to the second. Remember, we're already capturing who performed the activities. Andrew mentioned calculations, and how these are no longer manual. We have an extensive calculation engine in here. And you'll notice there's a value here, 55. That's actually being referenced from earlier, and it's already populated here. If I type a value here, the calculation automatically works itself out. We've got also other calculations using hidden data like quantities. And we even have the ability to dynamically update ingredient levels, etc. on the fly. So let's just say this actually should be 8 instead of 7.2. Rather than having an incorrect calculation, I can update it there and then. And it's all audit trailed. Only specific individuals can do what I've just done, but it is there for the kind of flexibility. Allow users to select from text instead of typing things, or scan a QR code. And actually, this is more a compliance thing than error proofing, but perhaps you want your employees to check a disclaimer before we move on. Like, have we done these tasks? Is all of this done? You can actually link to a document or a disclaimer, and MasterControl will actually force you to open that. This is just an example quality manual. But what I've basically said is you need to open this and review it before we can continue. Date selections, we do offer the kind of traditional calendar tool if you want to. And remember at the top, I captured this time. I can capture it again, and it'll automatically work out a duration. I hate manually working out durations. I don't need to worry about it now. It's there for me. And in addition, maybe your operator has different paths they can go down. I'm going to use some drinks as an example, a fizzy grape and a fizzy orange. There are obviously different brands out there. We'll not shout any of them out. But if I chose grape, you'll notice this field is no longer applicable. So we're removing the temptation to do something they don't need to do. We've completely eliminated any extra steps that they might be tempted to click. Did we fail? Yeah, we did. This has been pretty awful. Then we can launch a form. And Andrew mentioned the ability to kind of raise your deviation directly from here. I can do that. The deviation team's going to be notified. They've got their own workflow to go through, and then we can continue. Now, further eliminating human error, we can integrate with internet-connected things like the Internet of Things, scales, temperatures, pressures, humidity sensors, etc. So when I press this button, hopefully somebody's paid the electricity bill in the Salt Lake City offices, because this is connected to a set of scales over in Salt Lake City with a 2.5 kilogram weight on it. And I'm looking for a limit of greater than that. And that actually ties in with the question that came in previously. I overlooked it. I apologize. It doesn't, when we're talking about limits, it can be between, greater than, equals, plus, minus. We'll have a look at that very briefly soon. We can complete this section. Now, in addition, we do provide tables to reduce error. We can pull data from Excel spreadsheets or storage areas, but this table is really just letting me capture information, temperatures, pressures, at a regular cadence throughout the production process. So let's do that again. We used a different instrument. The temperature's -15. Perfect. The pressure is 1. Fantastic. And what that's doing is it's automatically working out averages, deviations, max mins, etc. And then when we get to the quality side of things, I've got a nice easy, is everything okay? Yes. Can we pass it? Let's complete it. Yoda's coming out of retirement once more to verify this. And as far as we are concerned, as the operator and the quality side, we've done most of it. We're 100% done. We've got these signatures, we've got a deviation, and we've got a full-blown activity log. Now, the next part of this is our review by exception. And this is actually, despite us putting all of those kind of preventative measures in place, what if something still goes wrong? And this will surface all of this for you. So we have a step corrected. It'll take me directly to that and I can view the correction. Fantastic. We had a pass-fail action. Where was it? Perfect. Okay, I can see it's linked to a deviation. We have an attachment. We don't really need to see my face again, but there you go. And then we had a form that we raised. It's the deviation. We didn't leave any manual notes, but you could allow your operators to add context to what they're doing. And we did exceed a limit, which is down here. Remember, we looked for -20. We got -19. So this ties in with that percentage saving Andrew was talking about. I think it was 89% at the review release side of things. This is where a lot of our customers and users are getting that benefit because we're actually putting in your face what you need to check rather than the entire thing. There's other things down here. When you're building this, you can actually tell the system, even if it's a correct and perfect answer, I want to see it. So who gathered the tools? It was George and it was witnessed by Ben. Fantastic. How long did it take? It was 1:41. Fantastic. And there's a couple of other things down here, like did we get any supervisor overrides, etc. From here, we can very quickly produce a PDF. We can reject it, or we can accept and release, and we can move on. So that's how the operator would experience these kind of preventative measures. What I'm going to briefly jump into now is how we actually build them into the template. Shouldn't take us more than 5 minutes. I've just checked the chat. I don't have any questions just yet, but I'm sure there may come some while we kind of build these. So let's jump into something that's pre-built. This is our no-code building engine. We're setting up the structure. We're setting up dependencies. So remember, you can't do 2 until 1 is done, and that's one of those measures we set up. And what we're simply doing here is saying, got to do 1 before we do 2. Okay, so it's very, very simple. In here, we have our activities. And these are the fields that our operators are filling in. Like we're going to get a bucket. Perfect. Press a button. And then we move on to this number field. Now you'll notice over here, we have unit of measures and limits. So my limit currently is set for between 50 and 60. If we edit this, we can have a quick look at behind the scenes. If we do go outside of that, we're going to warn the user. We're going to notify somebody, or we're going to put a different like notification up, like your supervisor has been informed. But it could also be a target of 20 plus or minus 5% or something like that. Okay, so it's not just the range. It could be a target where we've got all of these operators that we can use as well. And then therefore it will follow, email people, notify them, etc. Another way you could argue to prevent errors is you could actually set a field to only allow authorized individuals to enter the data. Maybe it's a quality step, an in-process control check, something like that, that you want somebody to come in and do. And if you want to get told if it's positive or negative, either way, you can send a completion notification out to the individuals as well. So that's one of the ways we're bringing this in. In addition, we've got the ability to set the hard warnings. So this one will just reject. You cannot continue. So very similar to what we looked at earlier. This has got to be exactly 10. Perfect. This is one of our API fields. Remember, I scanned a barcode and it populated these details. So there's lots and lots of good ways we can bring in this error proofing. And this is where I've just said, I need a witness. Who can witness it? A specific role, perhaps, or maybe it's just anybody with the correct permissions. And actually what we can also do is if you say no, we can also generate actions, which could be notify a supervisor that we've answered this incorrectly. So there's a lot of these kind of measures we can build in for like kind of sit in the background and prevent your operators from entering incorrect data, or if it is entered, you're being notified immediately rather than having to kind of flick through at the end and look for these post-it notes. When it comes around to building these things, you can actually also create a section on its own and reuse it. So say, for example, you've got a quality check that you do often, you could import this as a template and everything will be preset in the background. Again, just kind of helping you go through all of your checks. We talk about data entry errors, but when we get to the quality side, you might have to go through things like, do we have all the documents? Are the labels correct? Have we got all of our attachments? They could all be questions that we're jumping through. Okay, so when it comes to building, it's no code. You really get to configure this, and you also get to validate it very quickly using our validation on demand tool, which takes the validation out of your hands and allows MasterControl to do that for you. Now, in addition, let's talk about data capture and how that can help prevent errors. Any values that we enter in our production record, we can surface and capture averages, so temperatures for freezers, rooms, pressures, etc. And we can plot these on charts to give you control charts. Not quite statistical process control, but more control charts around the values that were captured, when they were captured, and are they above our minimum and maximum. And this is the type of thing actually that you could have emailed to yourself every Monday morning at 9. So again, getting you ready for the week. What were the temperature values? What were the pressure values? Is there anything we need to worry about? So not only just kind of preventing errors during the operation, but also preventing errors afterwards where we can start seeing trends and things emerging. So there's a question come through there. So somebody's asking, is it really all of the data that you capture? Any kind of piece of information that you're capturing, be it a number, a selection box, a piece of text, we can surface in these dashboards. A lot of them are obviously, as you've seen, controlled with limits and things like that. So if it's a warning, then you'll have incorrect entries show up. If it's a reject, you won't. You'll only ever see correct entries because your process prevents it from carrying on. We do provide a lot of dashboards out of the box. So you've got a lot in here around what's most of our time taking, what are our trends around corrections, who's doing the most corrections, etc. If Andrew's doing too many, that might highlight a training issue. Now, Andrew, that's kind of all I wanted to go through. I know you briefly wanted to talk about AI. I think we've had a question come through anyway around what kind of we bringing to the table from an AI perspective. The answer is quite a lot, but I'll let you pick that up. I don't know if you've got any screen to share or if you feel I should just kind of sit on a fancy looking dashboard.
Yeah, if let's just leave this up for now, George, because all I have really is the,
Yep.
the Q&A slides, and then when we get to the QR code, I'll let you know. Okay.
Perfect.
So hopefully, I appreciate that was a very whistle-stop tour of the functionality of MX, but we really wanted to impress upon you just how straightforward it is to remove so many of those avoidable errors from your production documentation process in using a tool like this. George has shown you pretty much the top and bottom of it today, right from what you might think of as the back end, where, traditional MES developers would be coding, brand new master batch record templates for you. You will be doing that yourselves with a very simple, intuitive drag and drop style interface. And it's going to take you minutes, hours, maybe a couple of hours for super complex processes. But you're right, George. We've had some really interesting questions come through. So thank you to everyone watching for those. And one of those absolutely is around AI. And I'm not surprised because it's a very, very hot topic in the software world at large, really. And particularly in life sciences, it's a bit of a tricky one because people are thinking, how can I make sure this data is secure and the results that I'm getting from any AI that I'm using are relevant? So here at MasterControl, we've actually started to develop our own tools. We've developed our own large language model, essentially, which is really helping our customers to adopt AI into their core quality functions while meeting those high regulatory standards we all need to conform to. So what we have is a closed system. It's entirely secure. It's all owned and architected by MasterControl. So you know exactly how your data is being used and what kind of data is being used to train the large language model, the LLM. It's built on secure agentic AI platform with customized LLMs and services and programmatic agents behind it. But the keynote is it's all governed and administered by MasterControl. It is not leaning on any public large language models or anything like that. And another benefit of that really is the industry focus that you get to the results. There isn't the risk of hallucinations from elsewhere, somewhere on the internet, creeping into your results. Everything is extremely focused on that very heavily regulated industry that we operate in. So today we have 3 AI tools that are available to all of our customers. Very, very briefly, one is an exam generator. So if you're using our quality management system, that will automatically create exams based on SOPs or work instructions or other pieces of documentation that you might have in there. And we also have a document translator and a document summarizer tool as well. So the translator does what it says on the tin. I have this document in English and I want it to be translated into French or German or Japanese or whatever it might be. Our AI tool will do that for you. And the document summarizer, the most effective way I've seen it being used at the moment is to pull out the differences between versions of documents. Those are being used by a number of our customers today. But that doesn't mean we've stopped there. There are a ton of new AI functionalities that are under development at the moment. And I thought I'd just mention a few that are in beta testing today. So we have a regulatory chatbot that's in beta testing with some of our customers, which is going to be your first port of call for asking questions about regulations or any changes that are being made by the regulators. And we have a deviation analyzer tool as well that's going to be looking at all the data that sits behind all of those deviations that have been raised and helping you to identify trends with those. But what might be of most interest to the folks on the phone, on the webinar today, is our master batch record template builder. So in beta testing right now with some of our customers, we have an automated tool that will take your paper-based batch record, or if it's in Excel or Word or whatever it might be, and will convert it into a MX-Ray electronic batch record template for you, just like the ones that George has been showing us. It also has the functionality to build processes and build templates based on questions that you're asking the AI tool as well. So those are just some of the innovations that we're coming up with in AI. More than happy to talk about all of the other ones that are on the roadmap at length with you, if you would like to. All of the other questions that came in, so some fairly straightforward ones. One, is the system available in multiple languages? Yes, it absolutely is. Out of the box, I think we have 12 languages that the UI can be served up in. So do let me know which one it is that you require. We tend to find that, pretty much all of our customer needs are served by the ones that we have out of the box. If a translation is required, we can always help you out with that as well. And just touching back on the ROI question that George addressed earlier as well, a big part of my job is helping people, I guess, like some of people in your shoes as operations managers, is to help to justify or help to draw up what the return on investment in something like MasterControl is going to look like for you to present to board or budget holders. We've got a number of tools that we use to do that. More than happy to help you out with those. Though sometimes the response I get is, well, of course, the ROI you give me is going to be positive because it's your software. So if you would rather determine your own ROI, again, we've got some prompts that might help you to understand where is some of that wasted cost going. We talked very specifically about errors in production leading to all kinds of inefficiencies in the process. Some of them, may have slipped your mind. So just let me know if that is something you'd be interested in taking a look at, so you can be sure when you're building your own return on investment calculations, you're taking everything into account. And finally, we have a question about the wider platform. So particularly with the QMS and the integration with the QX module, again, all of our solutions are architected on a single, unified, common platform. And that means that the integration between all of our manufacturing module and all of our quality management module is native by design of the product. You don't need to worry about connecting the two sides of the system together. You don't need to worry about validating integrations or maintaining integrations. They all exist by design of the product. That means you will have one vendor to manage in MasterControl, one system to validate, one system to train users on, regardless of if they're in the quality operation or the manufacturing operation. So it's kind of needless to say, that's where our customers see some of the greatest returns when they're using both of those halves of the solution in tandem, because all of your reporting is then compiled as well. So you can have reports that cut across quality, manufacturing, or a mixture of both. And that kind of leads me quite nicely into the last question that I'll address, because I know that we're coming up to time right now, which is all around, how can I be certain people in a different site, for example, are only seeing the documentation, the production record templates that are relevant to them. So George mentioned during his presentation how MasterControl is all roles and rights based. So every user of yours will have a named user account to access the system. And against that account, you can assign one or two or multiple roles. That means that you can be very, very prescriptive about what functionality a user has access to, what documentation a user has access to, what templates they have access to, and what processes they're able to execute within the system. So it's a very, very simple way of, let's say you have a production site here in the UK and one in France. Very, very commonly, the rules will be configured to make sure that only the UK specific SOPs or only the master batch record templates of the products we produce here in the UK are visible to our UK employees, and the same for the French ones as well. So yes, to answer your question, absolutely, that it can be separated out, and you can control who sees what and does what within the system. So George, would you mind stopping your share just so I can flash up the final screen? I would like to thank everyone for your time and for the questions and for your attention today. I really hope that this has served as a good introduction to the art of the possible when it comes to digitalizing your production documentation, and some of the benefit that you will start to realize really very quickly. One of our customers was presenting at our conference just a few weeks ago, and the whole presentation was around how they have exceeded their return on investment targets massively. They were expecting to hit certain targets within 2 years, and they'd hit them after just 6 months. We don't want the MES or the electronic batch record or the EDHR to feel like this kind of goal that you need to reach, but it feels like an impossible jump because there's so much work and so much investment involved in getting there. With innovative solutions like MX, that really isn't the case anymore. So I would encourage you, please, scan the QR code that you can see on the screen right now to take you through to the landing page for MX on the MasterControl website. And please do feel free to reach out directly to George or to myself should you have any further questions. But I'd like to thank you for your time today, and I wish you a very pleasant afternoon.
Thank you.